the 33rd running of the New Zealand Drag Racing Association's National Championships. A day of hot cars, high horsepower and speeds measured in hundreds of miles an hour.
Welcome to the New Zealand Drag Racing Nationals. We're at Merry. Great hot day, lots of hot cars, plenty of noise, that's for sure. Drag racing's been around since horse and buggy days, probably before. But as a sanctioned sport, it started happening in the States after the Second World War. In New Zealand, it started to take off in the late 1950s. Some famous names, famous cars like the Pirate Dragster. In the 1970s, that's when it really started to happen in this country with cars like Bahloo. When Peter Lodge built this car, Bahloo, in 1969, it was an absolute revelation to New Zealand drag racing because he used all the traditional bits that were being run in America at the time. New Zealand had seen nothing like this. A 392 cubic inch Chrysler Hemi motor, you can see it's supercharged, it's got the blower on it, the blower drive, the little fuel tank at the front, and the Fiat Topolino body. These were so popular in the States at the time. So Pete Lodge built this car at heaven knows what expense. It cost him more than a couple of $100 a meeting just to fire it up. He didn't get repaid for those sorts of contributions. But one thing is for sure, people remember this car. At any race meeting today, people come over and their jaws hang open. They say, I remember that car from when I was a kid. In fact, I remember this car from when I was a kid. I was 11 years old, out on the back streets of Wiri. The car was racing. It's the first car into the 10s in New Zealand, which was quite a feat. When Pete Lodge fired up the motor, my jaw hung open and I've been hooked on drag racing ever since. Carl Jensen rebuilt the car about 10 years ago using as many original bits as he possibly could, including the original Fiat Topolino body. It's a tin body, it's not a fiberglass one. In fact, Carl's seated in here now. It's the original body and in fact, the tin door's still open on it. So Pete Lodge managed to get into the 10-second bracket in this car in the 1970s. Carl, the new owner, the guy who rebuilt it, he's down into the 8s with very few modifications. It's a great car. Ask New Zealanders the big names in drag racing, they'll tell you Pete Lodge, Bahloo. They'll mention Garth Hogan. If you live in the South Island, the name is Ron Collett. In drag racing circles in the South Island, there is only one name, that is Ron Collett, particularly around Christchurch with his racing at Ruapuna Park over the years. But Ron hasn't been confined to Ruapuna Park, as you can see here. Ron has had the odd expedition north. This magazine is from 1976, and it's a tribute to Ron Collett, taking out the Nationals right here at Merry in 1976. Unfortunately, this state-of-the-art car is just going to have a couple more runs. And the big thing is to get it into the 5 seconds. It's done 6:03, which is wildly fast. He'd like to break the records and get into the 5 seconds in New Zealand. But that's, what, 25 years of campaigning since you won the Nationals in 1976. You've had fun over those years?
Oh, yes, you might say we've had a bit of fun, yeah.
You've had your ups and downs, but this is absolutely the last outing for the car.
That's right, yeah. With me owning it is, yes.
Okay, Ron, well, wish you'd do me the honour of signing this particular copy of Hot Rod magazine from 1976, and with any luck, it'll come true again.
Hopefully, but we're just holding our breath. See what happens.
Well, I'm happy as a kid again. It's only taken me a quarter of a century to get Ron's signature on that magazine, but it's a beaut. I'm glad I've got it. We've got a fantastic day of racing. Remember, it is the Drag Racing Nationals. It's the big day of drag racing for New Zealand. Racing in all categories and all classes. And don't forget to watch out for Ron Collett. Maybe he will crack that 5-second mark.
Last year's Drag Racing Nationals Top Eliminator saw the classic matchup, funny car versus funny car, Auckland versus Wellington. It was a hot day of hot racing that saw the quickest ever side-by-side pass in New Zealand, with times in the low 6s and speeds over 220 miles an hour. The 2000 championship went to Auckland's Tim Watkins.
Yeah, she's a hot one in there, but it was a good one.
You've had really consistent times. The car seems to have really hummed along, and at the end of it, you know, you've got the national title. It's been a great weekend for you.
Yeah, it's sort of what we sort of planned at the start of the weekend. We had specific goals that we came into the weekend with. I don't know if we were able to back up the record in that pass. You don't know what I run, do you?
About 6.2, just over 6.2.
Okay, yeah, probably not enough to get the record, but certainly the car's gone well. We've achieved what we set out to do. It's only our third meeting in top alcohol. So, yeah, we're pretty happy, I think.
For 2001, Watkins has forsaken the funny car, the ultimate in European exotica, the blown and injected Ferrari. His main opposition in the Wild Bunch door slammer class could come from Hamilton's Mark Holland, a veteran of many years racing at the Nationals.
Well, Mark, another drag Nationals. How many is this for you?
Oh, shit, we're going back now probably 17, 18 years since I've been running door slammers. And believe it or not, we've never actually won the Nationals. We've always come third or second or had a breakdown, so we're looking forward to maybe try and take it out today.
But the man they will all be chasing in the door slammers has to be Hamilton's Chris Tynan. So this is the king of the door slammers. This is Chris Tynan. And Manuel, of course, this is a car I went for a drive in, and I tell you what, I'll never ever forget it. I'll tell you what, folks, in the last couple of years we've covered all sorts of motorsport, but you've got to get yourselves one of these. This is unbelievable. Chris is so busy in the cockpit in about the first, I don't know, maybe 1-2 seconds. He's changed 3 gears. We're up to terminal velocity. Yeah, fall straight back into the seat. And when they pull the parachute, it's the sort of thing that gets into your blood, doesn't it? I mean, you've probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make, what sort of difference are we talking about?
Well, hopefully we'll pick up 0.2 of a second. And we'll probably spend about $10,000 to do it. But, you know, that's what drag racing is all about, is go as fast as you can. Of course, the budget's always the limiting factor.
So it is Neil Robertson from Wellington in the right-hand lane as we watch it, going up against the rear-engine rail of Glenn Collett, another one that is the son of a famous father in Ron.
Yes, Ron Collett is a legend in drag racing in New Zealand, made the trip up from Christchurch for a good many years now.
Well, we talked to these guys yesterday and they said the conditions were a little bit too hot. It's a little bit cooler here at Champion Dragway on race day. Are we going to see the first sub-6 for quite some time? Well, horsepower to burn from both of these cars, near enough to 3,000 horsepower. It's Collett on your left in the rail. This semi-final was a match-up of last year's final, but unfortunately things didn't go as planned for Neil Robertson.
Just on the finish line, the burst panel went, and that threw up the supercharger, jammed over the throttle. Didn't have time to, I just switched it off and just held on. Didn't have time to pull the chutes and brakes. And I was going too fast, I didn't even put the brakes on because I would just rolled it over, so I just went straight up to the gorse to try and...
I guess it all happens in an absolute blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's all pretty quick. So.
And you're sporting some of the scenery here too, isn't Neil?
Things go wrong like they did last year for you at the Nationals. How hard is it to step back in the seat?
Yeah, it was a bit nervy. I jumped in and the first run, the car, we turned it right back and it was a pretty slow run and it was good. Yeah, once I'd done that first one, it's good as gold. I've been there for years, so yeah, looking forward to keep on going out again.
So first up, it is qualifying for the Wild Bunch, and in the left-hand lane, Mark Holland in the Valiant Charger going up against him, Steve Bernasconi in the T-Bird. All Holland, though, as he streaks down the quarter mile. You want to run somewhere around about the 7.5 second run, I would think.
Well, this new engine, the supercharger, we're probably getting very close to getting on 3,000 horsepower. So this is a big jump from last year. Last year we were around about 2.2. So, it's definitely a whole different combination. The drive will change gearbox ratios, suspension, rear tyre sizes. So it's like sort of starting back at scratch again. The worst thing about it in 6 seconds, you sort of, it's all happening that fast. It's very hard to sort of pin down where the car's playing up, and it just takes more passes and more testing. And
Next up, the defending national champion of the Wild Bunches. This is Chris Tynan in a Rat Attack, 55 Chevy, 1,800 horsepower. Just sets it up for the burnout now. And this is the crowd favourite, no doubt about that. With me, the voice of Champion Dragway, and that is Kevin Manuel Stevens. Kev, what do you think about this one?
Well, the competition's been very tough in the early stages of the qualifying sessions. This is a good pair on the track, Chris Tynan and Mark Thomas from Wellington.
So Tynan in the 55 Chevy gets ready to stage. Mark Thomas from Wellington alongside of him in the Holden Ute. And Thomas got the great start there, Manuel.
Yes, but Chris Tynan has plenty of horsepower and drives right around. A bit of smoke there, could be problems for Chris Tynan early in the day.
Well, I guess all they're thinking about is getting a qualifying time. Next up, we've got Pigzilla. This is Trevor Tynan. This is Chris's brother up against Tim Watkins. Now, Manny, last year we saw Watkins in the funny car, but no funny car this time round.
No, this Nationals, he's elected to race the Ferrari in the Wild Bunch division. So
a good win there for Trevor Tynan. Craig Brown on your left-hand side of the screen.
Bobby Owens in the Falcon Futura, taking lane 1. Craig Brown seems to have the horsepower for the win in this qualifier.
Qualifying now for the Hauraki 99 FM top dragster and funny car, and this is Glenn Collett in the right-hand lane, looking for the elusive 5-second run here. Alongside of him is Rowan Rivers in the Oldsmobile, but it's Collett all the way.
we've got some new parts on it that we flew in from the States for this particular meeting, and we just had what they call in drag racing a bit fat, which means it's a bit soft, so it gets down there in one piece, and we're ready to go from there now. So hopefully some good stuff to come.
So funny cars for you once again. Neil Robertson from Wellington up against Auckland's Frank Bogard. It is Dodge versus Pontiac. Remember, last season, Neil Robertson had all sorts of problems at the end of the strip. Hoping to put that behind him here. The man from Wellington, the Red Line Oil-sponsored car. We'll concentrate on him as he gets off the line, and he's got problems again. He gets up into a big wheelie, and look at the way the car just twists and turns down the strip. An easy win for Bogard.
It wasn't too good. The car left the line pretty well, but it lifted the front wheels and it just drifted across the centre line. And I had to take my foot out, come down, and I put my foot back into it, crossed over, so I pulled out. Just coast it down. So we'll come back, make some adjustments. I think we'll take a bit of clutch out. It was running a bit rich, so we'll lean it down a bit and should go a bit better.
Well, round 2 of the Permaseal Supergas competition now, and a pretty unusual matchup here. Manuel got a Mark 1 Cortina up against a Camaro.
Yeah, Supergas is an interesting class. They run on a fixed index so that all cars are running to the 9.90 second. They can't go under that 9.90.
So this is the Cortina getting to the line first. Lindsay Hollard up against Graham Alexander there. Second round, Les Hurst in the right-hand lane, and alongside of him
is Dave Tully in the Dodge Coupe.
Good win there for Les Hurst. Round number 3, and a V-dub, can you believe it?
Yeah, that's John Shepherd from Palmerston North, Mark Anderson from Mount Wellington, and the Valiant Charger.
Oh, pretty close there, but I think the Valiant might have got there. Another unusual matchup here. We've got Craig Webby in the Nissan Skyline, powered by a Ford V8, up against Clive Davidson in the front-engined rail.
Now, we talk about running on a 9.90 index. That is the time, ideally, they want to run. You just see Craig Webby going through there with a 9.980, 130 miles an hour. Clive Davidson, 10.11 at 128.
So into the second round now of the Daytona Performance Equipment DYO competition. Manuel, just explain to us Dial Your Own.
Yes, another form of racing very popular here in New Zealand. It is a handicap start where the drivers nominate the time they expect their car to do. The handicap makes up performance differences in horsepower between different cars in the same class.
So Brenton Campbell getting the win there. Second round now, another Fiat Topolino going up against a rear-engined dragster.
Yes, Steve Milne from Tauranga and Diane Prendergast from Ashburton.
So proving that women can do anything.
Certainly can. Defending champion Diane Prendergast. Not so good run that time in the second round.
Now there's a graphic example of the handicap you talked about before.
Yes, Dennis Lovegrove in the Camaro, his dial-in time of 11.90, whereas Mike Hogan in the Willys Coupe had a 9.15. At the finish line there, a lot closer.
And is that what the secret is to the DYO, is to make the racing closer?
Yes, it does. It makes up for performance differences in horsepower, but at the finish line, it comes down to drivability to run close to that dial-in time.
Well, another unusual mix-up here at the Jaguar, if you believe it, and a rear-engine rail. Next up, it is round 2 of the Auto Trans competition, and the racing system is factored. Give us a brief rundown on what that's all about, Manuel.
Yes, there's also a handicap start here, but the index, as it is in this case, is set by the track depending on the class record of the car. Again, it should be even at the finish line. Not so in that pairing. No problems for Laurie Webster, but the Forest Loaders dragster of Ian McDonald setting a new record there, 7.814, 166 miles an hour.
Well, next up, it is another rail saloon car combination. Steve Anderson in the rail up against Team Squig's Falcon. Fastest fuel-injected Falcon in Australasia. And an easy win there for the Falcon. Next to go, it's Ray Smythe in the dragster up against John Pavlovich in the Burger Fuels Altered.
And you can see from this shot here that Ray Smythe has a lot of work to do. The car all over the racetrack, and problems for John Pavlovich and the team of John Pavlovich and Chris Piaggi. Some work to do after that race.
So the son of a famous father in Travis Lefting going up against Tom Manu in the A40. Have a look at that, Lefting just getting a little bit crooked at mid-track. And the A40 coming with a rattle. Oh, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to pick that one. That was very close indeed.
Well, we'll go to the electronics, and it shows the win for Tom Manu. So Travis Lefting not going to be able to double his victory from last year.
Oh, something special here. The double engine rail of Mark Vincent going up against Gary Shiska's Fiat Topolino. And another front engine digger there in this round of Auto Trans comp. So back to the Wild Bunch now, and this is round 1 of eliminations. And these things are the mega horsepower. Pigzilla it is. Just getting some last minute attention.
Your problems for Trevor. Lost fire on the start line. Crew frantically trying to get it fired up, but as you can see, not going to make this race.
Well, that's bad luck all round for the Tynan camp, because brother Chris out as well. So the quartermaster will go off on its own.
had a good season so far. Steve Bernasconi in your clock in 8:17, 169.
Tell us why the Ute.
Well, there's a story behind that. Chris Tynan, who we've all met before. I've been good friends with him for a number of years. He was sitting on the back of his back lawn. Had no wheels on it. It was just basically a body, like the old hot rodding thing. Had the tree growing up throughout the engine bay. And he said to me, oh, that's going to be a good race car. And we were looking at purchasing one from another guy that was already built. He was unrealistic with the price, so Chris and I thought, yep, let's do it. So we did it. It has been the world's fastest Ute. We sort of lost that title to a guy in Australia, but hopefully we can get back. We're not far behind them. They run under different rules, so it's a little bit of a mismatch. But yeah, no, it's good. People like it. I mean, lots of people have owned a whole Ute, haven't they?
Well, exactly right.
So they can definitely relate to it on the bank up there, that's for sure.
Well, the people on the bank will love this. The matchup between Craig Brown and this 55 Chevy up against Mark Thomas in the Chevy-powered Holden Ute.
Mark Thomas has had a good season so far, recorded some of his best times in the South Island. Craig Brown had a bit of a break, came into the season part-way through.
Thomas just edging up and breaking the staging beam, set to go here. Who are you going to put your money on, Manny?
Well, I think you'd have to favour Mark Thomas. The experience he's had through the season has been a good one. Craig Brown, as I say, coming in partway through the season may be costly for him.
Great launch for Thomas from Wellington in the Ute. Keep an eye on the Chevy.
Bit of work to do, Craig, as he uses most of his lane. And there you see Mark Thomas, top in charge, horsepower taking the win.
Now, this is one of the more exotic of the Wild Bunches or door slammer cars, Tim Watkins in a Ferrari.
Yes, 78 Ferrari Boxer body with a blown and injected methanol burning Chevy.
The Pro Tree goes down. It's the Ferrari that gets off the line best of all.
And the aerodynamics in his favour. Tim Watkins driving around, Bobby Owens taking the win in the Ferrari.
Now, this is a recognised horsepower leader in the Wild Bunch. Something like 3,000 horsepower coming out of this pro-built American engine. Recently put in Mark Holland's car. In fact, they've had problems with the car. They haven't quite got on top of the setup as yet, but they hope to make amends for it here. Been racing this car for 18 years. The Valiant Charger of Mark Holland, the Rock FM car from Hamilton.
Yes, he's done a lot of work in the off-season and a lot of sorting out to do. He certainly has targeted the Nationals for this year for his swan song.
So there it is all engine as it singles away. Looking for a 7.5 second pass. So into round one of eliminations in the Hauraki 99 FM Top Dragster competition. Once again, a single run coming up for Glenn Collett. They fire up the big Keith Black engine.
Yes, a single for Glenn Collett this time because the Rowan Rivers Racing funny car has had problems in the qualifier.
Well, as we said, Glenn Collett looking for the magic 5 second mark. Already run a 6.1 this year, early in January, 223 miles an hour.
These cars should be running in the 6 second zone. And although he gets off it early, that will still be a 6 second pass. 6.71 for Glenn, off the mile an hour, 173.
Business end here of Frank Bogart's funny car. Just set to go up against nemesis Neil Robertson. There is Neil Robertson, sitting looking remarkably relaxed before they pop the body down on the funny cars and get set for this one. Round one of the Hauraki 99 FM Dragster and funny car eliminations. Great burnout from Bogart.
Very important part of the race there from the APCO Auto Parts funny car. They've got to get those rear tyres hot and sticky to get maximum traction.
So watch for the red line Pontiac up against the Dodge Daytona, the APCO Auto Parts Dodge Daytona. Bogart versus Robertson. Set to go, and Bogart gets off the line well, Manny.
But it seems to have some tyre shake problems there, and yes, the chute coming out, so problems for Frank Bogart in round one.
Something a bit special for the big crowd at Champion Dragway was the Hemi Challenge. In the left-hand lane is Dave Armstrong in the body dragster, and in the right-hand lane it is Carl Jensen in the legendary Baloo. Also adding to the entertainment was the Junior Dragsters. Powered by anything from a Briggs & Stratton through to a 250cc motorcycle engine, they start them young in drag racing from 6 through to 16. Also getting the crowd to their feet was the truck racing demonstration. Cedric Abernethy in the Scania up against Jeff Landon in Richard Lester's Mack. Lots of smoke, lots of horsepower, but unfortunately the times were slow. Gary Bogart in the Brian Roberts Falcon had never raced an aeroplane before, but he got his chance at the Drag Nationals. Richard Hood in the Pit Special, something for the crowd to get their teeth into in the lunch break. The takeoff was good from Hood, but it was Bogart that came back, but he managed to stay on the track.
Racing is a funny car. We thought we'd have a look at the top alcohol funny. So we picked on Frank Bogart's car. As you can see for yourself, the body's pretty light. Fiberglass and carbon fibre construction. If you have a look inside, there's nothing there. The reason there's nothing there is because the nuts and bolts of this car is over there. Now the first thing you notice when you take the body off this car is the engine. You'd have to be blind not to. A solid block of aluminium. Another thing you notice, have a look at the ignition system. Only a namby-pamby distributor like your normal family car's got. This has got twin magneto ignitions. All the spark in the wheel. More spark than the Mary Mary power station, probably. Next thing that grabs your attention is the fuel injection. Below that, the supercharger. 547 cubic inches, 2,500 horsepower. Gets down the quarter mile in a roundabout, well, give or take a little bit. 6.1, 6.2, maybe a 5. Maybe we'll see a 5 today. Why is it called a top alcohol car? Because it runs on alcohol. And this is where the alcohol goes. Goes through about 4.5 litres per run. Not the alcohol you drink, but this thing drinks this stuff like a fish. If looking at the engine's too much for you, you shouldn't be sitting where I am, because there's a feeling of impending doom. In front of you, 2,500 horsepower of engine driving through a clutch and a differential that I'm sitting, well, straddling at the moment. First thing you notice about it in the cockpit is that the steering wheel is so tiny. You've seen shots of drag racing before. You know that these cars don't go in a perfect straight line. So the driver's sort of going like this all the time, controlling the car. 2,500 horsepower, as we told you. How do you get it to the ground? As we said before, the clutch is a critical part of the power transfer. But the other part of the power transfer are these things. Not mattresses, but tyres. Huge big tyres that inflate as you go faster down the racetrack. So in effect, the faster you go, the tyres grow taller, you get a higher gear ratio, and if everything works out, you get a higher top speed. As we told you, maybe a 5-second run today, over 200 miles an hour. Unbelievable stuff. The air shifters are what changes the ratios at mid-track. And this lever here, most important. This is the brake. Now, when you pull the brake, you also cut the fuel. So once you've decided to stop, the engine's going to starve out, and hopefully everything going well, you're going to get to the strip, the chute's going to open, and your run's going to be complete. You put your eyeballs back in your sockets, you turn to the crash crew and say, fantastic, let's do it again.
Semi-final time now for the Franklin Long Roofing Wild Bunches, and first up it is Trevor Tynan. Now, he was going to meet Craig Brown, but unfortunately Brown broke in the previous round, so he will do a single. I can tell you that a clutch problem was what stopped him in the previous round.
This season, Trevor Tynan running a Lenco gearbox, so a whole new combination for him, doing very well. Here we see Mark Thomas in the Holden Ute, and he'll take the victory and put him into the final with a 7.07, 184 miles an hour.
I'm still having a bit of trouble in high gear. It's floating around a little bit, so we're just mucking with tyre pressures and just doing very subtle changes so we don't end up losing the whole deal. But yeah, hopefully we can just sort of carry on sneaking away with this next one and hopefully prepare for the final, but get through this next round. But no, the engine's running real reliable and making plenty of power. It's all mainly just in suspension and everything now, so...
Bit of fine-tuning?
Bit of fine-tuning, and yeah, just keep our fingers crossed and toes whenever we get through the rest of the day.
Well, we've already found one finalist in the Wild Bunches. This to find the second. Mark Holland in the right-hand lane in the left. Tim Watkins in the Ferrari, and it looks like it's going to be the Valiant carrying the day. And Holland wins it 7.14, 189 miles an hour. So into the Magen Turbo Warehouse street competition now. First up on the left-hand lane, Ian Brown in the white Chev up against Wayne Grimmer in the blue Plymouth Cuda.
These are the top 8 from the Dial Your Own Street division. You see Wayne Grimmer and Ian Brown there, and it is Ian Brown that takes the win with a 12.202, 110 miles an hour. Camaro just taking it on the line.
Next up, the 58 Chev of Paul Berridge up against Dave Hughes in another Camaro.
And Paul Berridge has already got the victory because Dave Hughes left too soon and bringing on the start line foul light, leaving before the green light. So Paul Berridge, 58 Chevy, takes the win with a 15.319 at 89 miles an hour.
Into the Sedgitons of Dominion Road Pro Street competition now, and in the left lane, Linda Zarodny up against Dave Erickson. Dave Erickson finishing runner-up in this class last year.
Looking to improve on that second last year, and he takes a win here with a 10.81 at 110 miles an hour.
Second combination in Pro Street, Carlos Ryan in the Monaro up against Greg Pepper in the 69 Chev Camaro.
And this final will give Greg Pepper the win in the Camaro. He takes victory 11.04, 126 miles an hour.
Round 3 of the Muddy Waters Irish Pub Super Street, and first to go on his own, Grant Little in the Falcon from Whangarei.
Single pass here for Grant Little. Has to complete the same number of rounds as everybody else within the class. And he completes it with an 11.13, 120 miles an hour.
Match-up of the Fords here. Kevin Foothead in the beautiful 37 Ford Coupe up against Gary Bogart in the XB Falcon Coupe.
Fairly even car combinations, and Kevin Foothead going very well. He's looking at a record here. He's going very well indeed. He will get a mile an hour record, 114 miles an hour with that win, 11.76.
In the left lane, Dave Bissett in the 1970 Ford Fairlane.
He too has a single in this round. With the uneven number of cars in this category, 2 singles, and Dave Bissett completes the pass, 12.18.
So oldies but goodies in this one. In the left lane, Andrew Gundry in the Model A Ford Coupe up against Dave King in the A40. And the sturdy British Bulldog gets there.
Although problems, trouble at top end for Dave King. He's gone over. We don't like to see that. He is in trouble. And fire. Oh, yeah, not a good day for Dave King. But just off camera, crash crew right there, putting it out.
So final match-up in this class, Alan Lowe in the T-Bucket up against Fred Robinson in the Falcon XF.
Alan Lowe having a very good season, nitrous-assisted T-Bucket, and he will take this win for the 9.53, 128.
Well, we're up to round 3 of the Permaseal Super Gas, and first to go, it is Graham Alexander, all on his own.
Yes, we'll see 2 singles in the first couple of races for this round. That'll bring the pairs back in the line for the final round. Graham Alexander dropped down a class, had engine problems in Super Stock, dropped back to Super Gas.
This is Lindsay Hoggard in a 406 Chevrolet-powered Mark I Cortina.
Here is that second single I was talking about. That'll even up the numbers for round 4, and Lindsay Hollard with a 10.06 at 129 miles an hour.
Next up in the orange Fiat Topolino in the left lane is Keith Peterson up against Dave Tully in the Chevy Coupe.
Well, we talked about races being penalised in Super Gas for going under that 9.90 index. Here we see Keith Peterson cut a 9.6. He breaks out. Dave Tully takes the win.
In the left-hand lane, Clive Davidson in the Dragster, and in the right-hand lane, Sean Lemon in the FX Holden Ute.
Sean Lemon's very hard to beat in this fixed index racing. He had very good success in the season, and he picks up another win here. Sean Lemon, 9.905 at 134.
Now both these next runs to decide the finalist. Errol Utinger in the Model A Roadster up against the V-Dub of John Shepherd.
And it is Errol Utinger in the Model A Roadster that takes the win. He's into the final.
So we've found one finalist. Let's see if we can find another one. Craig Webby in the Nissan up against Mark Anderson in the Valiant.
Well, both races here going too fast. In fact, a double breakout situation. Craig Webby in the Parts World Nissan broke out by the least. He gets the win.
Daytona Performance Equipment died their own competition. We're up to round 3. First to go in the left-hand lane, Brenton Campbell in the Altered, and Chris Wright in the right-hand lane in the Fiat Topolino.
Both very well-prepared cars. Both performed very well during this Nationals. Brenton Campbell performing the better out of this pair. He takes the win light with a 9.808, 132, from Chris Wright's 9.19 at 134.
Well, Manuel, DYO means dial your own. Just explain that to us as we watch Graham Carter just heating up the rear tyres.
Dial your own racing is where the driver of the car nominates the time they expect their car to do. They are allowed to run as close to that time, but not under. And that's the breakout situation. We see Graham Carter, the burnout, very important part of a drag race, getting the tyres hot and sticky. Graham Carter doing a half pass there, no need to break it, just a single.
In the left-hand lane, Dennis Lovegrove in the Camaro coming up against Steve Milne in yet another Fiat Topolino, very popular little car.
They are popular in drag racing circles, but you see the big handicap start there. Dennis Lovegrove had a dial-in of 11.8, Steve Milne 10.9, but very close at the finish line, win going to Lovegrove.
Final round sees the dragster of Kevin Eriksson up against Mike Hogan in the Willys Coupe.
Well, Mike Hogan performed very well during qualifying, but Kevin Eriksson is very hard to beat on race day. Eriksson takes the win, 9.239 at 141.
Round 3 of the Auto Trans Competition Eliminator, and first to go, it is Laurie Webster. Motorcycle-powered rear-engine rail.
Quite an innovative car, this of Laurie Webster's 1340cc motorcycle engine. Still performs well with the 1008, 124 miles an hour.
Next up in the left-hand lane, it is Dave Drew in the T-Altered up against Steve Anderson in the front engine rail.
Both races from Wellington, but you see problems shaking there from Steve Anderson, the chute coming out early, and Dave Drew taking the win. That steam you see is actually, it's not smoke, it is steam. The water catch can from the radiator is being vented into the exhaust system.
In the left-hand lane, the beautiful T-Roadster of Andy Chapman coming up against Ian McDonald's 351 powered rear engine rail.
I've already seen Ian McDonald take one record today. Can he back it up? He takes the win. Doesn't get a new record, however. Still a respectable tie from Ian McDonald, 7.92.
Left-hand lane is Team Squig in the injected Falcon up against Jerry Rose in the Fiat Topolino.
And Team Squig taking the win, and record starting to drop as the pressure goes on. Team Squig with an 8.71, 156 miles an hour.
Last year's champion Travis Lefting in the left lane, John Pavlovich in the right.
This John Pavlovich Burgerfield's Alter did very well in qualified number 2. Travis Lefting getting the better this time. A record again, 9.13 at 143.
Phil Hodder in the T, Altered in the left-hand lane, up against Gary Shiska in the Fiat.
Philip Hodder's had some interesting runs, had a tyre come off the rim earlier in the season, taking the win with an 8.12, 157.
And these ones too decide the finalists in the left-hand lane, Ray Smythe, and in the right-hand lane, Tom Manu in the A40.
Well, we saw Raymond Smythe have a lot of work to do earlier in the day, and again he uses all his track. He gets the win, 7.49 at 189 into the final.
Second semi-final sees Andrew Ray in the dragster up against Mark Vincent in the freight train rail.
Twin engine, quite a bit of engineering in the freight train.
Mag and Turbo Warehouse Street competition, and the first up in the left lane, Mark Bardsley in the Camaro up against Kyle Percival in the Ford Fairlane. Well, Manuel, we've seen so many different cars in this 33rd Drag Nationals, and I guess that's the essence of the sport.
Yes, there is a place for all forms of race cars and drag racing within New Zealand. The classes are made up of different cars with different engine sizes, different body styles, all in different brackets and categories with handicaps for certain categories to make up for horsepower differences. There is certainly a wide scope for drag racing within New Zealand. It's growing in popularity, and you can see from the juniors starting at age 6, and they were the biggest field at the NZ Drag Racing Association 33rd Nationals. 24 entries started the meeting.
Well, I've got a battle of the Holdens here. Chris Cuff in the 79 Holden Premier going up against Bob McKellar in the 1980 model.
Yeah, it's very similar cars. 406 Chevy for Bob McKellar. Chris Cuff with a 455 cubic inch Buick. We see Bob McKellar taking the win.
Wayne Grimmer in the Plymouth Cuda coming up against Andy Clark in the 39 Ford Sedan.
As you can see, a wide variety of body styles. Both of these cars are very, very quick. Andrew Clark got a very quick, very heavy 39 Ford Sedan. 377 Chevy takes the win, 13.057 at 106 miles an hour.
In the left-hand lane, as we look at it, Ian Brown in the Camaro up against Mike Wilkinson in the Falcon.
This is the final to decide for first and second national champion in the Elite Street at Mag and Turbo Warehouse. Dial your own car. The top 8, Mike Wilkinson, the Falcon takes it, 11.46 at 115 miles an hour.
Another final, this time for the DYO bracket. Paul Berridge in the 58 Chevy up against Andrew Gill in the Chev Camaro.
Yes, we've just seen the Elite Street. Those are the top 8 from the qualifying of Mag and Turbo Warehouse DYO car. This is the rest of the field. Very competitive. Andre Gill in the 69 Camaro. Very fast car. Takes the win, 11.19 at 125.
Into Ryco Filters Quick Street now, and in the left lane, Cameron May in the Pontiac Fireburn, whilst in the right, it is Dean Mitchell.
Dean Mitchell in the 1970 Chevy Nova. This is the side for 5th and 6th in the Pro Street. And we will see Dean Mitchell taking the win from Cameron May.
Next match up, it's Chevy versus Chrysler. Delwyn Levine in the Plymouth Belvedere up against Craig Wall in the Camaro.
Well, the Levine name is well known around drag racing circles here in Auckland region. Dave Levine won the top honour, top drag racer from last season. Delwyn Levine very much supportive, but Craig Wall getting the better of that race with the 12-1.
Final run in the Ryco Quick Street sees Paul Hammond in the 71 Cuda going up against Paul Harker in the 65 Stang.
And this victory gives Paul Hammond a national title for 2001, 12.408.
Final round now of the Muddy Waters Irish Pub Super Street, and the left-hand lane, it is Grant Little up against Clark Fiddis.
Starting off with the minor placings, Clark Fiddis had problems earlier in the day, and of course a loss in the earlier rounds is quite costly. He'll be running off for 7th and 8th. Clark Fiddis very quick, 11.14 at 101.
Next up, it is Andrew Gundry in that mean-looking A-Coupe up against Gary Bogard in the Wayne Roberts Falcon.
It's an all-steel body on that Model A Coupe. It's real nostalgic through and through. Still performs pretty well. Just a small block Ford, 302 Windsor. Can't beat Gary Bogart though. Seasoned racer Gary Bogart, he'll get 6th.
Next up, the epitome of a hot rod, the Ford 37 Coupe of Kevin Foothead up against Dave Bissett's Ford Fairlane.
Well, Kevin Foothead is looking at charging for a new record here, and by getting the victory he gets it at 11.76 at 115 miles an hour.
Single pass now for the Ford's RS Falcon of Fred Robinson.
Yes, this pass will give Fred Robinson 3rd in the New Zealand Drag Racing Association 2001 Nationals.
Final now, the Muddy Waters Irish Pub Super Street sees the defending champion Kevin McGregor in the right-hand lane going up against Alan Lowe. Here's another look at it from the perspective from the finish line. You'll see just how straight these guys go, or in the case of Alan Lowe, don't go.
A lot of work for Alan Lowe to do. He's got to drive around Kevin McGregor, but he doesn't. Gets a record as well, 9.31 at 144 miles an hour.
So the top 4 in the Super Street look like this. Alan Lowe takes the win and the record. Kevin McGregor is 2nd. Fred Robinson takes a record for 3rd. And in 4th, it is Kevin Foothead. Coming up now to round 4 and final round of Super Gas, brought to you by Permaseal.
We see Graham Alexander completing a single pass to earn 9th place overall for the 2001 Nationals. Had problems, cost a race earlier, napping on the line, but he still completes the rounds, 10.96 at 128.
Interesting matchup here, Manny, with Keith Peterson, last year's champion in the left-hand lane, going up against Clive Davidson.
Well, it just shows you how drag racing can be a fickle sport, from hero one year to 8th place overall.
Things not going well there for Peterson. Next up in the left-hand lane, it is Lindsay Hollard in the Ford Cortina up against Mark Anderson in the Valiant Charger.
Well, Mark Anderson going it alone this season. He actually breaks out there with a 9.8, so Lindsay Hollard earns himself 5th.
Sean Lemon in the left-hand lane in the FX Ute up against John Shepherd in the Chevy-powered VW.
Well, John Shepherd was a former national champion from 2 years ago. He'll go home 3rd in 2001 with a 9.92.
So look at the Permaseal results. Sees a blast from the past taking the win. Errol Utinger from Craig Webby in 2nd place. John Shepherd in 3rd and Sean Lemon 4th. Final round now of the Auto Trans Competition Eliminator, and in the left-hand lane it is Laurie Webster up against Dave Drew in the Altered.
Now, we talked about that smoke or steam coming from the exhaust system of Dave Drew. It is just steam. As I mentioned, the catch can for the coolant overflow being vented into the exhaust system just blows the water into steam, so there's no water dropping on the track, which is good for track officials.
A pretty close one there. Next up, it is Jerry Rose in the left-hand lane in the Fiat Topolino up against that beautiful 27T Roadster of Andy Chapman.
Andy Chapman's travelled a few miles, been racing at all the drag racing strips around New Zealand this season, had a lot of fun, and he will pick up a good win here over Jerry Rose with a 10.47.
Running hot all day has been Team Squig. They're here for a single pass.
Now, they're completing this run to get 9th overall at the New Zealand Drag Racing Association Nationals, and let's see it, another record, 8.664 for Team Squig.
Well, they say when you're hot, and these guys are too. In the left-hand lane, Gary Shiska in the Topolino and John Pavlovich in the Berger Fuels Pavlovich Piaggi Altered. Next up, Philip Hodder up against last year's defending champion Travis Lefting in the right lane. Lefting gets away first.
It is a very close race, this, both running small block Chevs, and Travis Lefting just gets there. 9.17 to an 8.17. Different class index, brought it a lot closer at the finish.
Single pass 2 for Tom Manu in the A40.
Yes, Tom completing this run. He will be 3rd overall in the class, 9.59 at 139 miles an hour.
And the final of the Auto Trans Competition Eliminator sees Gary Martin in the Flathead front engine rail up against Jeanette Smythe.
And bang goes the Flathead. Something's gone wrong for Gary Martin, but a lot of work for Janine Smythe. She saves it.
So final round now of the Franklin Long Roofing Wild Bunches, and it's been a fairly high attrition rate here, Manny. Just the 4 or so cars left.
Yes, and you can still see Trev Tyne, a good sense of humour. And in the heat of competition of the Nationals, Team Pigzilla with Miss Pigzilla 2001 can still manage to have a bit of a laugh on the start line. Official job really to do, because that person is responsible for guiding the car back into the burnout marks, the hot and sticky traction that is laid down from the burnout. Excellent pass from Trev Tyne. The final run for the day for him, 5th place overall, and an excellent time, 7.72 at 172 miles an hour.
This is Steve Bernasconi in the Quartermaster car coming up against Tim Watkins in the Ferrari. Thunderbird versus European Exotica. Watkins in the left-hand lane.
And you can see problems off the start line for Tim Watkins. So this is probably going to be the best Nationals finish for Steve Bernasconi. They give away a bit of horsepower to the other cars in the class, but they still earn third place with an 8.14.
And this is a man that everyone's been watching all afternoon here for the 33rd Drag Nationals. Mark Holland up against Mark Thomas. Holden Ute up against Valiant Charger. Both of them icons of New Zealand motoring.
Both sides of the Tasman. They'll be very interested in this across in Australia. Apart from the body styles, of course, all-American running gear. There's an excellent final. Mark Holland has made his run on a mission. Bit of smoke. I don't think it's too serious. Probably just a blown-out rocket cover gasket.
Well, after 18 years of trying, Mark Holland gets the final. They say that the perfect start to a perfect run is a perfect burnout, and that's what we've got there. Talk us through the run here, Manuel.
Well, plenty of horsepower there for Mark Holland. Lifts those front wheels up. The art here is the chassis tuning. He keeps the car very straight. He's got no steering from the front wheels. It comes down now gently as he selects another gear. He has got a hard charge on, high horsepower. You see a bit of smoke there. That is where the gaskets would have blown out. Big pressure through the traps. Excellent run, 6.7 at 202.
So a final look at the results. Mark Holland gets the win from Mark Thomas. In third place, it's Bernasconi. And in fourth, it's Tim Watkins.
And a six. First six in the new engine.
Oh! 204. Woohoo! 202. Oh, mate, that's... Oh, what do you say? What do you say? Oh, what a day.
First title for you in this one?
Yeah. First time I ever won the Nationals. I've been running this car 18 years, and I've always had bad luck, you know, always give it 150%, and there's always some little teething problem or...
Well, it's come down to this, the final of the Hauraki 99 FM Top Dragster or Funny Car. First to go on a single pass is Drury's Frank Bogart. Now, he finished third last year in this class, and he's going to finish third here again as well. Good launch for him there, but you see just maybe the chassis just touching the racetrack there. So that sets up the final between Glenn Collett and Neil Robertson.
Last year we didn't quite make it. We went off the end of the track, and now glad to be here and hope we can get adjusted a bit more and go a bit faster.
Now you're saying that you've got a computer program that plots the innards of the engine, if you like. Just explain to us here on we have a look on the screen.
We've just downloaded this out of the car and we bring up a screen. Here it shows all our cylinder temperatures here, which shows you here from the start of the run here, from the little white dot. Okay, and then as you go down the track, the cylinders warm up, and that's where ultimately we want to be, where we take our readings from. We want all our cylinder temperatures between 1,000 and 1,100, and it's still a bit cool, but you know we can just tweak it up a bit.
I'd say it'll come down to who's got it tuned into the weather, because with the clouds changing all the time, it's who's going to get it right on that particular moment. And obviously off the tree off the starting line is going to be a big thing, and hopefully I'm on the winning side anyway, is all I can say. Otherwise I'll be having to walk home.
So the classic matchup, the funny car versus the rear engine rail. Neil Robertson from Wellington, the Red Line Oils car. This man, Glenn Collett, having what will probably be his last drive in his father's car after a long 29-year campaign. In the right-hand lane, Robertson from Wellington, Glenn Collett from the South Island. North versus South, funny car versus rail. The tree goes down, and it is Collett that blasts away. But have a look at this as we watch the end-on shot there. Neil Robertson's really got some problems here as he gets very, very close to the Armco. But I think he got there. Let's have a look on the replay. Manuel, how did you see it?
Well, it is a very close finish, and as you can see, Neil Robertson by half track there, he is in front, but what a lot of work to do. He's all over the track, he comes very close, he does touch, but he's beyond the finish line, so it's a legit race. He gets the win in the fastest side-by-side alcohol pass in New Zealand. Robertson 6:01, 2:20. Collett 6:257, 2:11.
Didn't see him till about half track, and then he just went on by, and then when he goes by, it's too late, you know. I mean, you're in top gear. I mean, I hit top gear about just after half track, and then we changed the pill, we stretched it out as far as we could, and he was gone, you know. And he goes past you like you got the handbrake on, you know, and it's motor racing, though.
Well, Neil, the computer couldn't have lied, because that was a fantastic run.
Oh, it was awesome. That was awesome. We got a bit hairy down the end. We actually hit the barrier down there, but I wasn't going to lift off. It was a final. We wanted to win that really badly.
Looked like you got off the line really well. Did you know in yourself that you sort of had it?
It just kicked me in the backside, and it just went. And I thought, hey, we're on a good one here. And it's held on, and I short shifted a bit in the second. I got a bit frightened with it, and it just kept on going. And it was just when I went to hit the parachutes going to the finish line, I sort of got a bit skew with, and she was She was humming. I loved it.
You've heard the time and the speed?
Yeah, we're that close from that 5-second run. I just, so close but yet so far. But, hey, we're happy.